Well, hello, it's Andrew Doubleday here yet again. It feels like it's been a while for me. It won't have made any difference to you before, but since I've been doing this last. So today we're looking at the Gospel reading for Sunday the 20th of June. It's Matthew chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. A very well-known story about Jesus. On that day, when evening had come, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe, and said to one another, "Who is this then, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" So Jesus wants to cross the lake. Why? I want to suggest, and this is pure projection on my part, that he was simply peopled out. He had had a full day of being with people, of ministering with people, of praying for them and with them, of teaching people, and he was done, just like any of us. Because dealing with people can be both exhilarating and ultimately exhausting at both the same time. And so he says, "I want to cross the lake." And we read that the disciples took Jesus just as he was. I was just struck by that, just as he was, and wondered why it's there. I checked half a dozen translations, and they all said the same, basically. They took Jesus just as he was. So what's this about? I want to suggest it implies a measure of pared down simplicity. He takes nothing extra. It's just Jesus. Just like them. He has a whole lot of extra accoutrements. He is vulnerable, exposed, simply Jesus, no extra set of clothes, just Jesus in the boat. I think it emphasises that he has no special extra equipment, no special books or text with special prayers or incantations, no special talismans, nothing to aid him in storm calming. Just Jesus alone, just like any one of them. And Jesus quietly parks in the back of the boat and is quickly asleep. It's not long before the wind comes up. No problem. Half his disciples are seasoned fishermen. They've been on this lake for years. And they've seen their share of squalls and storms. We can handle this. After all, what would Jesus know? He was a carpenter. No, this is our area. We're specialists in this. We'll be just fine. But it gets worse. Much worse. Far worse than anything they've previously encountered. And it's looking serious. And Jesus, he simply sleeps on, perhaps quietly snoring in the back of the boat. It becomes clear to them that this situation is beyond being manageable. The disciples may be expert in handling the boat. They have no control over the storm. Finally, when it appears that the end is near, they wake Jesus up. Why? What do they expect of him? Did they want him to be aware that they'd done their best and that they were all going to drown together, and at least he was going to drown awake and with his eyes open? Did they expect some kind of intervention? It would appear from their words that they hoped so. yet with no idea of what it might look like. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" This was a cry more of desperation than of faith. They'd tried everything else. Isn't that how it is so often? We've got this. Happy for Jesus to snooze in the corner while we do our thing. We're in control. Until we're not anymore. Until the situation is beyond us. Until we're facing a storm that we can no longer manage. And we know that we're going to drown. So finally, they wake him up. They discover that although Jesus may not be an expert on boats, he's an expert in storms. He knows how to deal with storms. And we're so slow. I speak for myself. I'm so slow in getting this. Not only does Jesus know how to deal with the storms, he has, we discover, complete mastery. In fact, when it's over, the disciples are now more scared of him, because that's the sense of the text. When you dig into it, they're more scared of him than they were of the storm. What have we got here? He looks just like one of us. He seems just like one of us, so ordinary, and yet, what just happened? And everything is now like a mill pond. They got more than they bargained for. Jesus knows storms, and this Jesus who came, just as he was to him, there is much more, much more than meets the eye. We all encounter storms. I've encountered my fair share over the years, some of which we believe we can handle, others which we become convinced are going to drown us, and I've been through a few of those as well. I've been getting spiritual direction for the last 12 or 13 years. It made a huge difference in my life. In the early days, time and again, and still today from time to time, I'd raise a storm, a squall, a breeze, an increasing breeze, which I find myself to Kevin, my spiritual director. And invariably his response, which is a question, is always the same. And he would ask, "And what happened, Andrew, when you brought this matter before Jesus in prayer?" And my answer is invariably the same. Until this moment, I hadn't considered that an option that I needed to take up. It just had not occurred to me that this was something that I needed to do. Really, really odd. It often is the last place I go, rather than being the first place, which would make an awful lot more sense. And so, we do it, there and then. I bring the matter before the Lord, before Jesus in prayer. And the answer pretty well always comes fairly quickly. Do you know, the interesting thing is that usually it's not rocket science. Yet it comes with a surprise. How come I didn't think of that? It always comes with a gentle wisdom. The one who calmed the storms for the disciples on that day has all the resources to deal with the storms, with our storms today. And so my invitation to you, in whatever place you find yourself, in whatever situation you find yourself, whether you're facing a massive storm or you can feel the breeze starting to grow, is to bring your concerns, to bring your questions, to bring your situation, to bring them all before Jesus. Find a place to quieten yourself. Simply open your heart to God. Be aware, at least in your imagination, of God's gaze upon you. gentle and loving. And give yourself to Him. Give yourself to God. Say, here I am. And then ask. Ask the question. Raise the issue. Lay out the concern. And notice what comes. Usually pretty quickly. What thought arises? What pictures, what feelings come into you? My experience has been that if I'm looking for a dramatic experience, I'm almost certainly going to be disappointed. It doesn't come with bells and whistles. It doesn't come with drums, cymbals and skyrockets flashing. It's more likely to come in a still, small voice that sounds like a voice very much like my own voice. That simple idea which quietly pops into my mind and my awareness. Allow yourself to receive it. Allow yourself even to engage with it. To have a back and forth conversation. Seriously. And be at peace. Be at peace, my friends. Be at peace. You are not alone. God bless you.